So, I thought I didn't have to do anything. Literally, man, I love the beautiful gift that is to realize that the instant I am deciding to hit go live, or the instant that I decide to change scenes in the occasions in which I have to do it, from the starting screen to this real streaming scene, in those moments, it is that I also fucking realize how much of a problem I end up having. Not a negative problem, but rather how many things I should be attending to before really streaming, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Let me pull up this over here. Let me put it over, I think over here. Yeah. And well, I don't know. Let's see. Wait. Let me. Okay. Finally. Welcome, Seno. Yeah. So, I think now I shouldn't be forgetting about that much. I hope, I pray. I am. No, I think no. So, anyways, here we are. Finally, continuing with what I need to finish. And let me see. Let me also try to capture this. And transition. And okay, here we are. And yeah, we were over here. I quote unquote finish this. I think I am going to add something like color or more tones of dirt color, because I think it is kind of a problem to not have that much deepness in any particular color. In this case, on this, you know. So it was with the pencil that I needed to do color. I think, and yeah, basically that. And meanwhile, I was still thinking about yesterday questions and similar, and not that I fully found solutions or any other possible cause to any of the particular things that we were discussing, or that I tried to talk about, but rather I don't know. I decided to try and focus on anything, you know. And one of the few problems that I think I kind of found not a real solution, but rather a response was this idea of the art that one creates being something that requires time to be properly put together, and why, in a sense, it is necessary almost for, in this case, any particular creator to try and, mm, although they don't have the capacity of putting that, let's say, for the rest of the world to see, not because they don't want to do it, but rather because they can't do something like that, as it represents, let's say, an ability that they don't have, let's say like that. When they can't, this is the way, when they have to deal with something like that, the artistical mind should try at the very least to see it from this point of view, or not that they should see it. I believe at the very least a proper way to seeing it, let's say, is to realize that when you are creating art, even if you can't properly put into the paper, into the canvas, into anything, into the pixel art itself, even what you are imagining, I will guess something along the lines of you trying to, let's say, trying to accept that a part of the process is to realize that you might as well need to spend time simply trying to make those things get mixed together, no? Because I don't know if it is sadly or not, but it doesn't really happen that much that you can out of nowhere worry on the situation of having to, let's say, having the complete capacity over putting any of the things that you have been imagining into something visible for the rest of the world, I would say. And in that sense also, I will kind of argue that a type of necessity is to allow yourself also to fail, because at the end of the day, even if you don't have that much of a capacity over putting, creating, yeah, I mean, also stimulating yourself for the sake of creating art, let's say, even if all of those things are real, the simple act of accepting that you will need to somehow try to not get distracted about the different parts of your art and not get distracted by the real, not real problem, simply the reality itself of you not being capable of completely immersing what appears inside the room of your imagination on one side, and on the other, dealing with the consequences of being capable of doing it, I will guess, because in an even bigger or deeper sense, I will think it is kind of negative, to also realize that out of nowhere you will also have to deal with whatever you imagine being the thing that you can't create, create, instead of it being something more abstract or more complex for you to really make apparent, I will say. But I don't know. It is also on that same front that I still think about the question itself as, do we really have the capacity of doing something like that? I mean, I wouldn't think it is negative, but simply to accept that you will have to spend so much time is to accept that in a way you also will sadly have to not simply imagine, but rather you will have to let go of the part of the process that is related, let's say, to the act of believing that you're not going to find any problem whatsoever on the things that you try to make real. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really have to deal that much with the topic itself, but it also is similar to my quote-unquote problem of sometimes, man, grasping the concept of time is kind of hard, I don't believe that many people really can't do it on the front of believing where is it that they are and understanding what are the different situations in which they inhabit and so on and so forth. But it doesn't also mean that I don't think some people struggles with it. I mean, I wouldn't qualify myself as someone who struggles with time. I will kind of talk about probably struggling with time also means that in a sense you sadly can't fully find your pace on time, and not to make fun of anyone, but rather simply realizing that you're not dealing with those problems is something incredibly liberating, I would say, as you really, if you don't live in a reality in which time is an almost completely strange concept to you, you might as well not have to worry about the different things that come with not understanding time. And yeah, I don't know. In this case, for example, trying to apply that into this that I realize, or that I, at the very least, I think about the same concept of in which ways, for example, not understanding time itself, you can find yourself liberated from the different responsibilities, because in a sense, you sadly can't be not affected by time, but the only thing that can kind of happen is you can not think about time, and you can let, I wouldn't say simply time exists, but rather let time be part of the same creative process that applies to you, as in you realize now that you are dealing with something that is it truly out of your imagination? Is it something that you can, I don't know, because the topic itself is art, no? So does people really have that much of a hard time overall trying to create anything? Does people realize how much of a problem it is to create anything. At which point, for example, as an artist, you come into acceptance of the artistical process itself being something incredibly long and being something almost tiring, you know? I will kind of argue that, yeah, it isn't really that strange to see and to find and to observe almost in how many cases it is that different artistical things end up taking longer than expected simply because, I mean, the simple act of creating art is by itself an incredibly long process, and the simple act of trying to put together anything worth observing is incredibly tedious at times, and at others, uh, unnecessarily long, I will guess, or I will try to say, not because it really is long as in what a pain, but rather because it is simply long, you know. You you need to dedicate time and you need to be clear with yourself almost how much it is going to take you. And sadly, a part of it also comes from the side of realizing or not in which ways it is that you're constricted and you're affected by your capacity of putting into a canvas what you're already thinking about. And I wouldn't believe it is completely negative. I don't think it is that negative for anybody, but I will say it like this. Some people might as well find themselves having a hard time simply because you you have to accept almost that by creating art, you're also sacrificing um, other things, as with anything, but in this case, we are talking only about art. So, by creating art, you have to sacrifice the, I would say like this, the capacity of simply imagining and living with your own imagination happily is what you're throwing away, as you accept that, in a sense, you're not truly capable of putting that up front and making that apparent for anybody. So, by also trying to create art, it is that you sadly have to deal with the consequence of leaving behind all of these commodities and almost, I will say, particularly normal things, because at the end of the day, by creating art, it is that you also see and you also comprehend how, in a lot of ways, you are not affected by what is the creative process itself of trying to. Well, no, kind of the opposite. By not creating art, sorry, it is that you are liberated from the consequence of knowing really how much it takes for anybody to really put any particular piece of art together and to make it be as good as it ends up being. Because even more, in an, I don't know if it is a deeper sense or not, you sadly also confront the reality of you become too much. I don't know if it is too much or not in reality. Simply, you become aware of the sad. I don't know why to say sad. Also, I think it shouldn't need to be sad. It is simply that you end up finding really how much it takes for anybody to create anything, and by doing so, it is that you also become more aware about the different situations in which some people find themselves in. As by being artistical, let's say, you yourself, you also can start to see and to inhabit almost the different things that are born from being creative, you know. Sadly, it doesn't come to everybody, but at some point, some people don't have that much of a problem realizing, let's say, how different artistical endeavors end up being taken from. And by observing something like this, and by spending time of trying to make sense out of whatever type of artistical vision they have, it is that you can also make clear to yourself in this case how much somebody did or did not, or not completely, simply approximate how much time did somebody spend trying to create anything minimally artistical, I will say. And sadly, in that sense, I will guess the negative thing is to not promote that much the simple act of making art from on one side, and on the other, allowing other people to experience it. I will think, as in, for example, yesterday we were talking about the idea itself of trying to create art and trying to make art for the sake of allowing also people to observe the creative process itself. And I will believe in this case that by allowing people to be part of the whole creation process, it is that you can also let them be observers of really how hard it ends up being to create any particular concept, and how hard it ends up being to make anything overall a reality, you know? Okay. I think I will simply start with this. I don't know how much it will totally take me or not, but I will simply start with this particular building, quote unquote building. But yeah, I was trying to say, by allowing people to observe the creative process, it is that you can also give them the possibility, in this case, continuing with the whole example of comprehending a little bit more, at the very least, why the creative process itself is so long. And when you are a creative person yourself, you gain that capacity after practicing, or after being you yourself part of that, let's say, whole effect, no? But in a society in which we don't believe that it is, I mean, it isn't completely necessary, but it is the same as not killing, not being necessary for any particular society. You can kill people, but it really isn't beneficial for anybody to kill people, you know? You end up losing more than what you really gain if you decide to make killing an interesting side of any society, or a big part of any society. At the end of the day, by simply accepting that you want to kill, you're also having to deal with the consequence of your actions, as in, you kill somebody, or you kill one person, the other side decides that because they are not agreeing with who you killed, because any particular reason that makes this particular disagreement exist, no? They will have now to make things equal, quote unquote, by killing, in this case, somebody probably from your own faction. And by doing so, you end up creating an unending cycle. Obviously, it ends up ramping up, and it also is part of a bigger problem, like how many times it is already existing in our society that we allow people to engage in that type of behavior, and so on and so forth. But I don't really, it is kind of outside of this point. It is simply an explanation as to why it happens that killing isn't really good. So yeah, going back into this, part of trying to understand, and part of trying to make sense out of anything, in this case, that is artistical, is to allow people the possibility of really connecting with others, as in, you now give those who are not creative the chance of observing the creative process. And by doing so, I will guess, you allow anybody, or not simply anybody, simply you allow others to be part of it. And by allowing people to be part of it, they can intake, in this case, as I was saying, those who are not creative, intake really how much, if it is a hardship, how much of a hardship it is. If it represents a problem to try and create anything, how much of a problem it is. If by trying to make any particular concept that appeared in the imaginary space of your mind real, how much of a real problem it is to try and do so, on how at the very least, let's say that you're a talented artist and that you don't even need to try and make it clear. You already have a vision, and you simply need to take that from outside, or not from outside. Like, you need to simply transport that from one place, that is your imagination, to find the tools to properly put it into anything that you're creating. And by doing so, you give them the chance of, not because they understand the creative process, but because they can harness time, something that almost anybody can do. Like, I mean, for example, let's say you are not talented as an artist or as an artistical mind, and leaving behind also what we kind of talked about yesterday, as in, you can also cultivate those qualities, something that is besides this point. You might as well see and observe really how much for anybody it takes. And in that sense, it is that I think it is kind of a win, the biggest type of win that you can have. It is to allow people to observe others creating anything, and to let them experience firsthand really how much of a problem it is when those who are creative try to put forth something truly creative itself. So in that same sense also, I will kind of say that by doing this, the connection between the one who is artistic, the one who is outside of the artistic realm, and the one who is in the middle gets bigger, let's say, or gets increased. And at the end of the day, I will try to infer that maybe, I mean, that was the whole objective of this, to try and infer why it is necessary and beneficial for anybody to do so. At the end of the day, if you decide to leave behind those who are creative for the sake of having a more or a less creative society, you also are sadly negating the creativity itself to run free, and by letting this be part of what you are creating, you are sadly also, I won't simply say corrupting, but just destroying any particular artistical endeavor from being. And by doing this, it isn't that you win anything, as this is probably the next question, how much really something artistical has a value inside of it, but simply, just because you don't have creativity, it doesn't mean that you have solved problems out of nowhere. Let's say, trying to make a more logical argument. Let me drink water first and foremost. Also, okay, there it is. Nice. So I was over, I think, something like, okay, yeah, you cannot have creativity on a society, but the consequences of that, I would say, are not that particularly beneficial, as it ends up being, in this case, a reality that by negating creativity, you end up also negating the chance for anybody to express themselves, as it is part of being creative to express yourself and to try and say any particular thing that appears in your mind. Not simply to say it, to put being congruent with the other term that I utilized some minutes ago, being congruent with what appears in the space of your imagination, and also the space of the reality in which you inhabit, sorry. So by doing these things, it is that you can also kind of perceive, see, become an observer, whatever you want to say, of the concept itself of you let me stretch my arm because it is starting to hurt. You being also part of something that ends up requiring you to put any effort behind what you're doing. And by having this be something almost constant, you also realize truly how much of a problem it ends up being. Because when you negate creativity in this case, you discard the factor of truly allowing whoever to observe that for the sake of, I will guess, what is it that you can gain by not having a creative society? I mean, the proofs. I am not talking from a real place of understanding, but you can already see it from those who truly understand that being creative is necessary for a society. Almost okay. The amount of professionals who think that being creative is more beneficial than not being creative is incredibly big, or incredibly bigger compared to those who think that not being creative could be good for you. I guess. But what would be the case? I mean, I don't know. If you want to manipulate a society, something like that, when you rob them of the possibility of truly thinking for themselves, if whatever it is that is happening is beneficial for them or not, because I would say it like this, probably also being creative means that you deal with, quote unquote, sadly, the reality itself of things, as in you start to see and you start to realize and you become more of an aware person about the different parts of any reality itself, as in, why is my arm hurting so much? Give me another second. You also have to deal with the consequence of them not having almost the capacity for thinking or of thinking for themselves. As let's say like this, when you're creative, you can take what happens in front of you and you can utilize that as a reference point for the rest of your imagination. Yes, but it doesn't mean that by being creative you live a more critical oriented life. It simply happens that you can, by being creative by itself, solve more problems in which you can, for example, most of the time simply think outside of the boundaries that are presented or that are simply put in front of you. Because let's say like this, when you are creative, you can deal with anything that appears to happens to appear in front of you, as the quality of creativeness is also one of, I don't know, if simply hope. I would guess probably hope in a sense. I mean, maybe it is too hard of a topic, and I didn't even realize how much creativeness was capable of affecting anybody. I mean, maybe. Give me a second, because I also need to do something. Okay, I am back. I simply need to do something. But yeah, I mean, in a sense, I guess the question itself of how much creativeness is beneficial for anybody is kind of hard, because sadly, the more things that you try to put into the bag of creativeness, the more, yeah, the harder it gets to truly define if that is born from creativity, if that is born from what, really from what. But I don't know. I simply, yeah, I will simply keep saying what I was thinking about before that. For example, when you're creative, you might also as well have a better time creating also hope for yourself, as it means that you can see more where there is almost nothing to observe. And not simply that, but rather you can become a more aware person about the different reasons as to why what you are thinking about might triumph, or yeah, might be a triumphing concept, or might be a completely wrong one, you know. And by doing so, it is that you can also start to be truly capable of putting forward your intentions in a more real manner, let's say. And I guess in a sad sense, if you're not creative, you will end up having a hard time with that. And if in a society where creativity is not predicated, you find yourself dealing with a problem, the simple notion of you not finding a response might as well make you believe that out of nowhere, this particular problem that you encountered is completely impossible to solve, or is truly outside of the realm of a solution for anybody, or is completely, yeah, similar things like it is completely abnormal for anybody to try and solve it, or it means that you can't have solutions for anything like that. I mean, I I I I lack proper knowledge about it, but I will kind of guess that even doing maths and doing those kind of studies in which, although you have formulas, you need to find solutions for things like how can this particular formula be applied to this particular problem, and how can this really affect what I am trying to solve. Like this equation can get something completely different and something that almost has nothing to deal with it, or had to deal with it, can get connected to this. Can I really do that? Can it become a possibility? And can what I am doing also be true or not? I guess in that sense, also being creative is a benefit, because in any type of situation itself, you find yourself finding solutions to the different problems. You don't struggle so much simply because you wish to be creative, or because you had an interest over being creative, or anything like that. I don't know. But I think the next part is simply to accept and to become aware of the side of you that deals with stuff like, okay, now that we are creative, we have kind of a responsibility over putting our creativity in use. And I mean, I will try to face it from this side. Probably a good thing to have or to take into account is how much creativity really is valued nowadays, and how much value it by itself has, not with a proper response, but rather with a desire to simply see it, as in, because you can observe this, you might as well find yourself more motivated towards doing it, if it is something that benefits your interest, no? And the, the most proper thing is always to remember that, for example, the amount of creativity that somebody has really can be unlimited. As in, as long as you wish for it, you can truly be so creative that the things that you start to put together are so out of the realm of understanding of everybody else that you truly almost become a creator, and not simply a creator, an inventor of completely revolutionizing things. And not simply the artistical value of it is that of a revolution, something that truly changes the world in which you live, but rather also what you by yourself are creating can be beneficial for everybody else to see, as it means that you are allowing others to get incentivized towards creativity. I will say like this: in a better society, probably the act itself of being creative might as well be more rewarded, because you can also understand how, by having creativity, all of the things that we already said basically happen. You end up having the capacity of solving problems differently. These particular problems do not pose that much of a threat to you. The capacity itself of being helpful is increased on you because you can also, let's say, make everything else real, as in not real. You can simply make yourself be more motivated towards creating anything, as it also becomes of you a notion of truly where you are right now and how much more you want to work towards any particular objective, and in different ways how you might deal with it, and how it is that you can also, let's say, try to continue with your efforts and similar stuff, as in kind of in a part of the process you have to. Sorry for muting. um, I was saying, probably you also have to deal with the possibility of you failing, of you being more successful. You maybe in some cases, yeah, being less successful. I don't truly know. I don't believe it completely happens. But let's simply say, when creativity gets promoted, the whole society advances more. I don't. I mean, is is there something aside from you are creative and you are uncreative, or is there a proper mm, not negative side, opposing side to creativeness? Like, I mean, I don't think even if you wanted to create order, you needed to not be creative, my man. To have to have the capacity of putting anything together and to have the capacity of organizing things based on your imagination, it already means that you're using your creativity itself to do so, and you're allowing your own creativity to run free for the sake of organizing things later on, but still for that sake, not simply that you are spending time trying to make anything be real or whatever. It simply means that, I mean, the common thing, it simply means that you have to spend time trying to make that apparent and trying to make that work and whatever. And I will guess, probably, if you are creative, you find more benefits towards whatever that you want. As in, let's say like this, your own, I don't know if simply, yeah, your own capacity of being organized gets also affected by your capacity of truly making the rest of the things also be affected. So, not affected, what? Be organized as you want, let's say. So, I will guess, in a sense, creativity is weird. Let's accept that. I think creativity is truly weird. You might as well have so much creativity that you feel like you are going to explode or something like that. I don't know, but it doesn't mean that you can't be creative and find any particular benefit by doing so. It simply means that, for example, by being creative, you can find different responses to the problems that you find, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I don't know. I guess what I said before, if you want to have a less chaotic society, limiting their creativity is a good way to do so. But also, how can you avoid, or how can you limit something that is intrinsical to the human nature itself, my man? How can you remove the desire of being creative from anybody? Like, I mean, yeah, how? Not, I don't even have a proper example, my man, in this case. I think, how? How will you do so? Which tools will you try to utilize for the sake of that? Huh? What what will be a tactic that might work? And I don't know. I mean, well, always what happens the best is you can discourage any kind of behavior by being negative towards it. For example, let's say like this. If you were to negate artists the possibility of spending their time making that particular art, that they had, in this case, as we were saying, envisioned, you can start to see the benefit of this in the, or for the case of lowering your whole society creativity, no? And for that same reason, it is that you can, for example, start to limit how much somebody can be creative and how much that creativity has value for everybody else, and how much. Give me a second because I need to fucking stretch once again. I think I will. Sadly, yeah. Let's do this. Let me take some 1 or 2 minutes because I will need to really stretch my fucking arm. I don't know why it hurts so much. I think it is the position or something like that. Anyways, going back to the question itself. Maybe you have the possibility of being limiting creativity and in ways in which you can destroy others' capacity of analyzing what you say and really taking apart the different things that you try to argument, and basically robbing them out of the possibility itself of being parts of whatever you in your own realm of creativity are making, for the sake of basically being somebody who imposes more of what you do to the rest. Because they lack that creativity, they won't have the capacity of searching if what you're trying to do is beneficial, is detrimental, is good, is bad, is anything at all. So yeah, I don't know. I will say that probably in the whole case of creativity, destroying someone's creativity also lets you be yourself more creative. But I mean, you can't completely eliminate creativity still, because you limit others' creativity for the sake of you yourself being more creative freely or more freely. You don't do it simply because you want to eradicate creativity from the face of the world. It simply means that you might as well realize there is something good behind being creative, and you yourself want to be the only one who has the possibility of harnessing that quote-unquote power. So yeah, I don't know. It is kind of weird, in that sense. I mean, I think at this point we can properly transition into the question itself of how also you can try to see creative as something necessary. Okay, I think that is enough. It kind of hurts my arm still, but I don't know. I guess I forgot to properly stretch today. I got starchy arms, so not stretching them is detrimental. Anyways, I will try to guess that. Not try to guess, into the question itself of why creativity is good for anybody. Going back into the first things that I already said about creative stuff, promoting overall creativity and allowing you to let others be creative, and the different problem solving side of it that gets encapsulated also in being creative. You also can see, for example, that you can convey more things, not with less, but you can compress more by simply being creative, let's say like that. By possessing the quality of creativity, you can put together different things that others might as well not even have the capacity of observing. And by being creative, you can also concentrate so much more on your particular objective instead of worrying about what, in some cases, the rest of the world is trying to do and the rest of the world is wishing to create. As you might as well also, for example, have to deal with the consequence of destroying somebody else's creativity. As it happens, I will guess that most of the time, by robbing people out of the chance of being creative, you yourself end up taking too much of a responsibility over being only you the one who is creative. As in, are you really going to be capable of providing for a whole society all the different creative solutions that are needed? Because at the end of the day, for example, this doesn't have to deal that much with anything, but I think it can serve as a proper example. We were talking with my family. I was asking about this concept. Can you really somehow not worry about you, not worry yourself about having a car? Is it something that could happen? Do you really have the necessity of buying a car? And if you are not creative, I would guess, you wouldn't see why it happens that you might as well not try to have a car, as at the end of the day, you have already been constricted by your own society towards the belief that, having a car, spending in a car, is a necessary part of life. It's an almost completely required part of life for the sake of really having a good life. So, believing in things like that end up driving you towards, I will say, beliefs that end up making you be an slave to prior knowledge. But I mean, I guess creativity and the capacity of learning don't have that much to deal, do they? I mean, can you really comprehend something if you can't see it in your own mind, and if it can't fit on anything else? I mean, I don't know. I think creativity itself is kind of weird in that sense, or to that degree, because you also become aware of the fact that, for example, destroying creativity might as well be detrimental. But why? Exactly why is the hard question. Which things get eliminated from any society if they don't have that creativity? What is the point of others also trying to be creative if you, for example, can't be as creative as them? I don't know. I guess in that sense, creativity might as well be correlated to something like being helpful or wishing for the best of the society instead of being a bad, bad faith actor and similar stuff. But I don't know. Also, as I would say, probably closer to the mic. Oh, I am so far. I will guess probably you also have to deal with the consequence of your own creativeness affecting others, and your own creatively made things, sorry, affecting whatever somebody else is trying to put together. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think it has been already too much that we have been talking about fucking creativity. So let me change topics. Let me try to find something different to talk about, because yeah, kind of bored. I think it has been for the last two streams that I have been talking about it. I don't know. Okay, yeah. I kind of talk about it already, but just compared to everything else, a little bit, let's say. And it is, I think, the concept itself of wishing you to be, not wishing, how to properly, or if it is possible to comprehend time fully. As I wouldn't say that it is a man-made concept. I don't believe it to be like that. I mean, it is a concept, yeah, but it isn't something that only applies to you or similar things. Like, I mean, for example, I will say medicine is a man-made concept, I guess. It is something that only those who understand it can apply that. No, it doesn't mean that, or not man-made also, intelligence-made concept. It simply means that you understand that you have the possibility of healing different problems, diseases, whatever that arises from any particular situation. And by having that realization yourself, it is that you can also try to inhabit or not. I would simply say, let me think how to say it. How to say it, my man? I will get something like because you can see what creativity is, you can also become real creativity. What the fuck? Yeah. What was it that I said? Medicine. Yeah, medicine. Because you understand what medicine is, you can also try to promote medicine a little bit more. And because you are somebody who is aware about medicine, you can try to break it more. But you can live without medicine. You can live without it. While on the other side, time itself completely affects anybody. No matter how old, how little, how intelligent, how mm, stupid, dumb. I mean, can is there a way to not define non-intelligence without sounding harsh, my man? Can I do that? Is there a way for me to define somebody who isn't clever without being aggressive? Let me think, because I don't really want to put negative words forward. I mean, I think there is no way to say that you lack knowledge without being negative. So yeah, basically you're sadly dumb. You can be incredibly dumb and still be affected by time, as it is. I mean, it is the same as gravity. You can comprehend that and you can make it work in your favor if it is possible for you, if it has anything to deal with your life or something like that. But at the same time, you can never realize that it exists and still live with it, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I think in this sense, time itself, the problem is how you can not simply harness, you can comprehend that. Because, I mean, what can be useful for you to define time? Like the amount of time that it takes for you to think, the amount of time that it takes for you to realize a certain type of action. I mean, if it is guided by that, simply time doesn't really has that much possibility of being defined properly and being put completely in an understandable plane for you. As it also sadly happens that things that you do and things that are done by you might as well not be completely affected by time itself. As it happens, I won't say it's sadly, but simply as it happens that some people can do the same amount of things that you can without spending so much time. And by these qualities, you also find that, for example, some people has incredible control over their time if it were based on that. So, based on what can we say? Based on a clock. On a clock, you still find yourself that sometimes the time that you experience runs incredibly more faster or slower than the time that is displayed on a clock. You can, I mean, you can sometimes have different types of experiences that drive you to believe or to see that what you have by yourself experience has no correlation whatsoever to the amount of time that has passed, let's say. I mean, also on a hormone level, you can find that the amount of time that passes in certain types of situations inside of you, inside of your, let's say, for example, biological clock, is incredibly different to the one that really transcurs in reality, as it sadly contains, or I don't know if it simply contains, it simply happens that the time in which you, yeah, the time that you inhabit is affected, let's say, by a more hormonal level, the amount of stress that you're going through, the amount of intensity of that particular experience, everything. So that is why time by itself ends up being incredibly hard to harness, I would say. And I don't know, I don't think it is that negative. It simply happens that probably time might as well require incredible amounts of time itself to be properly put together. And I mean it in the sense also of it it might as well be beneficial because going back into the concept itself, if you don't realize that time happens to you, you might as well keep living. But it doesn't mean that you're not affected by time, my man. Kind of the opposite. You might as well be spending more time than what you really believe you are, because you're not aware about how much time passes and what the different consequences of letting time pass, for example, are. As in a sense, I will, for example, say, sadly, if you don't believe that time is that much of a factor in your life, you might be part of those who spends so much time doing completely unnecessary things that you end up having, for example, 30 years old, you end up being, sorry, 30 years old, and you out of nowhere find your life to have been spent on things that never you really wanted, but only now you realize have no particular benefit whatsoever for you. And I guess in that sense, it also has to deal the concept itself of time with how much it will take you to realize that, and how much it will allow you to see different things if you can put time in a proper perspective. Because, I mean, also, a kind of different type of problem is how much you can properly see time without getting anxiety over it. I mean, yeah, in a sense, sadly, you had to realize that, for example, the amount of time that you have over anything is incredibly limited, you know? And sadly, I think that the more you realize it, the more you can also start to see and start to be part of those who believes that, for example, all of the prior things that you did in your life might as well have been an error. And how much time do you really still have to fix all of those errors? How much time do you really find in your life for the sake of fixing those errors, let's say, and for the sake of not living in any particular state of problem anymore? I don't know, I don't know. Hello, mas bro. I guess it is kind of hard, you know. I will argue that at the very least, trying to harness time might as well give you the possibility of being freed from the harness of spending time unwisely. Let's say you might as well not be capable of going back in time. You might as well not be capable of solving every other problem that arises from seeing how you already wasted your time, but at the very least, you can become aware enough so that you can somehow solve, somehow attend, and somehow pay attention to the different things that are related to the time that you still have left on your life, let's say. And for the sake of that, I will say, going back into creativity, you might as well want to be creative as much as you can, because in a not so different level, if you can truly put together a real argument about why time is necessary for you to spend properly, why time is a necessity that you need to, what the fuck, is a necessary concept for you to utilize, and how time is running in your case, you might as well not have that possibility of, as I said before, going back and conciliating the amount of time that you already spent with the amount of time that you have left. So yeah, I don't know. I will believe something like, at the very least, the hope of finding time to be less of a constriction and more of a beneficial thing that you can keep utilizing for the sake of anything might be a motivating factor towards the rest of your existence, you know? And I don't know, sometimes I will say probably we fail at conveying the importance of this. I think, no? As sadly it happens that we don't really see it as a necessary thing for the rest of the world, you know? And we don't really value time overall. I mean, you have to be too much of a critical human to say that, for example, spending your time on entertainment is sad or is unnecessary. Because, for example, I don't really want to say that at the end of the day, everybody's entertaining themselves. For example, this is still entertainment, I will consider. At the end of the day, creating a piece of art that will be utilized in something in the far, far, far future, while I can, instead of doing this, make this happen by paying somebody who is a lot more professional than me and who is incredibly more capable of doing art than me, is a possibility, you know. And I don't have any particular necessity whatsoever of doing this. And I am also helping the world if I decide to, instead of utilize my time on this, let it happen that somebody else gets the money benefit of this by thus allowing the whole society in which I live to move forward as I don't hoard my money. And by doing also that, I can. I think I can connect these lines, no? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't look that bad. I can connect this. Um, Holy fuck, so many errors now. Yeah, as I was saying, also you can, for example, argue that not having to spend time, I mean, probably thinking is a necessary thing for life. So at the very least, I am not only thinking in the void, in the complete void, but I mean, also, I might as well be limiting the amount of thinking that I am realizing, as I sadly am getting affected by the amount of things that I can say and by the amount of concepts that I can properly talk about and so on and so forth, you know? So yeah, I don't know. In this case, I guess I will once again close it with an I don't know. This is a response for everything and not keep worrying anymore about anything else. So yeah, I guess in that sense, there might be some benefits behind comprehending time, you know? So yeah. Also, can I utilize these lines to replace the other ones? Like, or I might as well do something like this. I think. Try to not destroy everything else on the process. Okay. I think, yeah, I think what I will do is I will try to give, once again, a proper outline of black lines, in this case, of even darker lines, um, and keep putting. I still will want to do, probably, I don't know, let me see. I guess I will do something like a strip, a strip of lines over here, like this, one. Oh my fucking god, how incredibly unequal are these fucking windows. At the very least, they are not real. Because if a building were to have these lines, oh my god, what a problem it would be, you know? But anyways, let me try to finish this particular. I mean, the best thing, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at the very least 5 more buildings to do. So yeah, kind of hard, you know, my man? Kind of hard to finish this, I guess. How much time I am going to put on this project alone? I don't know. I hate it. But anyways, as I was trying to say, going back into it, well, what I was talking about, I think I kind of finished the point, no? I guess I will argue. I will hope. I wouldn't want to keep saying stuff, you know, in an unwise manner, and also putting too much pressure on anybody. As in a in the final analysis, let's say, you sadly have to deal with the consequence of becoming too aware about something, and because of that, you might as well not want to become too much aware about any particular thing, as it might as well mean that now you have to take too much of a responsibility over your actions. But I mean, I don't know. It is still something that I think needs to be more predicated. The fact that taking the responsibility for your errors is incredibly beneficial instead of running from them or anything like that. But I don't know. I don't know. Also, what time is it? It is already 12 a.m. I haven't only an hour. What the fuck? Only an hour. Only an hour. Well, I mean, kind of only an hour. I only made this thing over here, this other thing over here. I guess, yeah, I guess it was kind of progress compared to nothing at the very least. Let me go back to here. Ah, so well, yeah, as I was saying, or well, I wasn't saying anything. I guess I will need to change topics now. I don't know. Yeah, one of the few things that I can say is I have an interest over going back to what I kind of talk about when observing creativity, the capacity of, or the necessity of having a car, for example, because I think it might as well be interesting, you know. I will say that not having a car might as well be a good concept, but the solution that I found is sadly that you have to live in a system in which, in where, sorry, there is no necessity for you to worry about different stuff. Like, you can not own a car, and you cannot worry about getting negated that. And at the same time, I think also that kind of problem that arises from saying stuff like this is that some people doesn't understand the incredibly, incredibly simple thing that is to be a good civilian. Because you can have no fucking cars, you can only exist in a society in which taxis are the medium of transport that you utilize, and even more obviously, cheaper ways of free public transportation are utilized, and you can find yourself not having to worry so much about anything else. As in a sense, I don't simply say it because, wow, I hate cars. No, I am worried about money, my man. I don't want, for example, here in Argentina, you will have to spend, I think it was around 1 or 2,000. No. I think it is nowadays. Yeah, with nowadays prices, you end up needing to spend like, let me, yeah, I can't even put a number. It is so big that I can put it into any particular thing, my man. What the fuck? Give me. I have a fucking calculator. Let me do that. Give me a second. Divided by, well, let's say 1,750. You need $14,000 to have a car, to rent a car, to own a car yourself. Instead, I say it as you might as well have that money in the bank, at least here in Argentina, because you can get money out of it. You know, my man? You don't have to worry so much about having the money in the bank, because you get, what is it? Compound interest from the money that you have there, and you don't have to worry about losing that money, in a sense, because you are only using an incredibly infimous fraction of it, instead of having to completely devoid all your money arcs on fucking banks, what, on fucking anything like this, like what you are talking about now, like an incredibly horrible car that costs $15,000 or similar, and you have to go and end up being broke because you decide, now I might as well rent a car. I might as well be the owner of my property. And I mean, it is understandable that you might as well want to own a car because you want somebody else to tell you what you can do and what you can't do with a car. But still, you live in a society where that happens. I mean, you still have to follow traffic rules, and you still have to follow the basic etiquette of human, of interactions when utilizing a car, you know, I mean, it isn't as simple as, okay, I now own my own car. I don't have to worry about anyone else. I can be as completely deranged as I want with my own car, and nobody will have the possibility of telling me what I can or I can't do with my car. Yeah, I think the problem is, I will guess, going back into it, the problem is still also that you believe it isn't necessary for you to have a car because you don't see it as a necessity, let's say, so much as others do. Because at the end of the day, you can truly make sense out of what others say, in the sense of you never know when something so incredibly urgent might require you to have your own car instead of having to rely on somebody else. But if, I mean, the problem is also you might as well have to assume that different systems in which you reside are somehow perfect or similar things, because you might as well not have to deal with the consequence of saying that not owning a car is negative if those systems, were completely perfect and were completely capable of providing for their society, which might need them, every single part of owning a car without the incredibly detrimental thing that is to by itself own a car, So yeah, I don't know. I think it is kind of crazy to talk about it. I mean, you're also giving too many things by as facts when in reality almost nothing really works so well in any society that exists nowadays. You can come up with a almost completely perfect society. Easy to do that. Incredibly easy to do that. But the societies themselves in which we reside are incredibly flawed, are incredibly filled with problems and other things that might as well not be worth even mentioning, because in a sense, even simply trying to talk about those problems ends up making you, in some cases, I think, an enemy of the system. Not somehow, simply it happens that you're pointing out what is bad with those systems in particular, when in reality you might as well want to keep them to yourself. There is no necessity whatsoever to talk about different problems. For example, here as an Argentinian of Argentina, you can become aware of them, but you don't have to talk about them. Why would you do so when you know that you don't even have the possibility of solving them, for example? Why would you try to spend your time talking about things that you can't even solve? I mean, to berate about something isn't that beneficial, and to be completely crazy and to be so worried about anything isn't that beneficial either, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I think it is kind of crazy still to try and talk about these things so far, but I mean, the process itself of doing so might as well give you the possibility of, at the very least, seeing which things you can really solve from your particular individual side. As in, for example, I mean, the whole taxes problem that exists in Argentina, where in some cases, those taxis that you decide to utilize are so incredibly in bad states, can be solved from an individual side, as long as you can accept that you might as well have more of an influence than what you think, and you might as well be more capable of attending to those problems than simply becoming a crazy guy and saying, oh my fucking god, I cannot believe it, the next time I utilize a fucking taxi I am going to kill somebody. I hate every single one of them, and I cannot believe that my country decided to have such incredibly horrible taxes. It doesn't make sense to act like that, at least from my perspective. It doesn't make any particular sense to try and be so entitled like that. You're still part of the society. Although you find it to be having problems, it doesn't mean that the society itself is going to solve those problems for you, And even less, if those problems don't really get solved, you might as well be more of a good actor, as, in a sense, if you can, you should try to utilize your capacities for the sake of doing so, Nobody is really going to get angry at you if you decide to try and help any particular taxist to solve their problems, for example. Any particular taxist, you might as well, for example, you have the capacity of giving anybody feedback. Why not do that? Why not be helpful and give feedback to others? But I mean, people might not be that interested in hearing me. Yeah, my brother, nobody is interested in hearing somebody who might as well come and tell them incredibly hurtful things, But If you order your stuff properly, you can do it. Excuses should be ignored in this case. Fucking excuses are the most wonderful thing about life. The amount of capacity that we hold out coming up with excuses for the responsibilities that we have is incredible. But the real amount of effort that we put towards solving those different problems is almost neglectable. And yeah, I don't know. I guess in that sense, I am only berating in my case because I might as well not be working in any particular problem, you know? And in that sense, that is also the point of this, to keep working on problems, not to say, wow, we are not getting anywhere, this is so sad. It doesn't make any particular sense to do that too, I guess. Not that I guess, I see it. I see it as that. But yeah, let me see. I think we're kind of close to finishing this session. Kind of. No, we still have at least half an hour. I was going to say, yeah, we are kind of close, but no, not so far. And so, what the fuck is this line? What an incredibly hard line to follow. I think this is kind of not, yeah, this isn't the stray. That is why this is so hard to follow. Okay, something like that. Something like this. Yeah, I won't make 3 lines over here. Yeah, I will. What? I can do that? Wait a second. Wait a second. Give me a second because this is incredibly high detailing that I am doing here. I mean, I could zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, it is free to zoom in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Easier to do it zoomed in, you know? Man. But yeah, I don't know. I think, anyways, we're not doing that bad at the very least as a society overall. I will argue. I mean, staying hopeful is the best thing, always. To assume that people is doing bad because they want is kind of meaningless, you know? To assume that people is wrong because they are stupid. Oh, and, well, I mean, but yeah, in a sense, it doesn't really have any correlation whatsoever. I mean, yeah, people does wrong because they don't know. Yeah, I mean, that is the whole predicament in this case, my bro. Yeah. I guess, yeah. I will. Yeah, I chose not a so good example in that case. But let's say like this. Assuming that people decided to do bad things because simply they are bad people, let's say like that, rather, is kind of useless because you're assuming that somehow people knows what is wrong and what is good by default, when in reality, most of the time, we sadly need to get those things directly spelled to us, directly told to us, for us to really realize what it means to be good, what it means to be bad, what it means to be a benefit to society. I mean, it is another one of those concepts, like the one of time itself. You don't really have that much of a knowledge about it until you can see it properly. And if nobody tries to even tell you what time is, why you might as well try to spend your time doing something that seems so unnecessary for you, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I think at the very least, in that sense, being not so angry, I will guess, the amount of things that we are doing nowadays for the sake of this particular objective and for the sake of allowing people to see and to comprehend how incredibly beneficial it is to work on things, to be a better civilian, I will say, and similar stuff to that is increasing more and more, I will say. So at the very least, it isn't that we're stuck on the worst of this. We're rather becoming more and more capable of solving these particular problems, you know? And in that same line, at the very least, we are having less and less problems overall. Even if in those societies in which we are doing quote unquote bad, like for example here, Argentina, you know, I wish we weren't doing so bad. I wish we weren't dealing with so many problems, you know? But sadly, yeah, I mean, there are bigger problems to solve than to simply say, well, I mean, yeah, in that sense, I will even argue also, in some cases it is necessary to tell your civilians that they might as well start to behave. Not because you want to control them, but rather because, let's say like this, for example. Yeah, I don't want to berate on anybody. I don't think it is necessary for me to do so, but do you really need to spend on trips, on vacation trips? Why don't you fucking stay in your house and invest that money in your life quality, my bro? What is the point behind spending fucking money that you need to eat and to spend it on a fucking trip? I don't get the people that do that shit and afterwards decide to complain. I mean, I wish I could say completely unhinged things like, you know what? If you were to say something like that, I will grab my shotgun or I will put you in front of a wall and you will get words and words that you can say because somehow being true to what you think is negative somehow. But anyways, continuing. I guess yeah. Trying to, at the very least, tell your people why it is necessary to not do things like that is a real solution to those problems, you know. At the end of the day, those who are not even aware about what the benefits of doing so are might not even have the capacity of solving those particular problems. As in an even deeper sense, how would you understand the importance of something like, for going back to time itself, how would you understand why it is important to harness time if you don't believe that you are doing something bad? And I mean, yeah, it happens everywhere. I would say probably, but I don't know. I guess yeah. The problem is we have also that belief that not knowing is better than knowing, and because you know, now you have to deal with the consequences of something negative, when rather you can solve all of the problems that arise from knowing, and you can become freer than before by dealing with the consequences of your own actions, because now you know, and now you can act properly in a world. It doesn't mean that knowing is something even close to detrimental. Rather, it gives you more hope than anything else, because you can see that by knowing, now you have a real way to solve the problem that you now can see. It doesn't make sense to try and rob people out of the possibility of solving their own problems. At the end of the day, shit like this, why would you want people to die because they don't know how to solve a fucking problem on their lives? Why would you want anybody to lose their lives because they didn't know that they had a chance at solving those problems they themselves in their own way, in a personal way, in a completely independent way? Why would you want something like that to happen to your society? What is the point in having a society if you are going to rob from them the possibility of dealing with their own problems and getting freed of those different problems by themselves, but instead to try and predicate that, you know what, you are now going to die and you are doing so bad. Wow, what is the point in that? What is the point in being negative with your people, in not giving those tools to those who need them, you know? Because I don't know, I don't know. I think that is also something that has to deal, that is correlated with the fact of you knowing in that case. Because I think it is necessary to assume that the world itself isn't so corrupted that you will want people to fucking die and you wouldn't want people to lose their hope in the whole humanity because of actions that you might as well have decided for others to be beneficial. But trying to argument that and trying to sustain that is incredibly hard, you know. And I guess in that sense also the problem is the world itself isn't helping on that, you know. Why would it be necessary to try and break it, something like that, when you go outside and you see fucking people getting dragged out of their minds? Because the best thing is to not even think about where they are living, what they are doing, with whom they are, and let's get it a little bit less sentimental. So yeah, give me a second. I want to stretch also. Now I want to drink water to relax. My man, I don't know. I think we're not doing that bad at the very least. We could be worse. That is the best response always. We could be worse. And because we're not worse, we can still have hope on humanity. Wow. So yeah. Anyways, I guess I will change topic because I still notice that I am sentimental about that stuff. Let's say so. Yeah. Um, wow, such a nice weather, huh? Ah, okay. Okay, we are done with the first building, kind of. The only problem is that it lacks proper coloring, like, it is too pale. And I don't know if I am going to do something like this. Let me see. Something like this, for example, and try to opacity, lower it to 60, and I guess at 11, and try to have it be like this, for example, on every single one of the windows that are out here, something like that, I guess. It doesn't seem that bad, you know? It doesn't seem that bad, I would guess. I don't know. Kind of a problem it is to not have that much of a creative eye right now. I mean, yeah, the problem is the incredibly high definition of the windows that I have seen on the rest of my life make it hard to properly come up with a real Windows that doesn't seem so weird like this one. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I think it looks a little bit better, I guess. I don't know, my man. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I still have to do the second floor. The second highest floor. So, how do I do that now? I was thinking something like tiny windows in this case, like one. I don't know which fucking building has windows like this, but I won't create. This isn't a blue. I won't truly criticize that much either, as it doesn't really have that much of a thing that I can do with it, you know? Also, why are the colors so incredibly corrupted? What did I do? I didn't fill properly the colors that I have to use. Is that what happened right now? Let me pick this one. Thank you. Yeah. Anyways, going back into trying to talk about anything. Why are these fucking colors so dark? Oh my god. Illusion. What? Why did we... I am using a different fucking opacity. That is the problem. I thought I was going crazy. It wasn't. I simply forgot to change opacity. Thank you. So, what I was trying to talk about is... I mean, yeah. I think it is kind of hard to think that much, probably, sometimes. But I don't know. I guess... I guess sometimes realizing that you don't have that many things to talk about is at the very least helpful, you know, because I know I have a lot of things to still think about. The only problem is I need to make them apparent to myself and make them once again, something that I can keep utilizing for the sake of, in this case, not only providing commentary, quote unquote commentary, because I don't even talk about what I am creating, but also because it is necessary, you know, to think and to analyze the world in which we live, my man. I will say, I mean, what is the point behind not observing where you live? And what is the point behind not realizing if where you live is good or not? I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think at the very least, let's say like this, at the very, 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 very least, mental exertion is incredibly good and it's incredibly entertaining and it's incredibly nice to do. I mean, going back into what we were saying before, creativity ends up driving you towards realizing things in life overall. And in that same sense, it also happens that thinking, be it creative or not, I haven't defined if you can be non-creative when thinking. Thinking by itself is also beneficial, I will argue. I mean, focusing on whatever it is that you want, not having to feel so worried because you don't live in such an unknown world, sorry, and being overall more capable of dealing with all the situations that arise from the simple act of existing sometimes is, is incredibly beneficial, let's say. And I don't know, I think sometimes the only problem that exists is we forget how necessary that is for anybody. At the end of the day, we certainly don't have that much of a capacity of understanding about why being like, yeah, existing overall is necessary. And existing for the sake of existing is a good thing. As in, I mean, how much time we have really existed? Like, I mean, sorry if I am not religious on, we have existed only around 6,000 years. I'm sorry, but going back into a more proper time measure, we might as well have been existing, we have been alive, at the very least, with the capacity of being conscious, around, I will say, 10,000 years, probably, at the very least. Thinking that it was truly something new, I will guess. But probably it wasn't even that new. I am pretty sure it goes back and more back in time. And I guess, yeah, nowadays we're only accelerating in the usage of our mind and in the usage of our intelligence and all of that because we have started, let's say, what was it? I remember an incredibly beautiful show of how much time put into perspective have really been alive and existing overall. Like, if it were to be measured in time, we're these last how many past 10,000 years are not even like 1 hour compared to the whole time that humanity itself has existed in not in a measure of days, not in a measure of one day, in a measure of a year, trying to make the whole, okay, I think it was something like measuring the whole existence of the universe, something like that. Humanity itself has been alive as we know it nowadays, or from the medieval times, alive from, I think it was like 1 or 2 hours compared to how much the whole universe itself has existed. And that is incredibly beautiful because it means that we are accomplishing so much more than what the rest of the things have been going on for, that it almost defies what is nature in the sense of humanity is incredibly fast at doing things, and humanity itself is incredibly capable of getting somewhere with the different tools that they might find on their lives. So I don't know, maybe staying hopeful is the best thing at the end of the day, as you never know how much what you can give to humanity might accelerate that already incredibly fast process of being alive. I guess the only problem is to stay goodly hopeful, because let's say like this, you might as well also be hopeful that everybody fucking kills them one another. Let's say that out of nowhere we finally erupt into the third world war, when in reality there is no necessity whatsoever to have stuff like that happening. And sadly, I will say, by losing the capacity of realizing things like that, it is that also we end up dealing with a world in which we have people still, I mean, yeah, still having to go through those incredibly harmful situations and incredibly negative situations. And I mean, it happens to almost every other level, sadly, that we have educational systems in which people doesn't really get educated about anything and only have to spend their money on a title that most of the time doesn't really get applied to the shops that those titles were meant for, because the whole market of those same shops, solely correlated titles, let's say, have changed so much, and those same educational systems have failed so much in actualizing that nowadays you are only burning money for the sake of burning money if you decide to go to 90% of the universities, faculties, higher types of education, let's say, whichever one it is that you want. And if it isn't that, it is directly something that has no application whatsoever to anything. Like, what is it? You can learn philosophy. What the fucking god are you going to utilize philosophy for? Which work can you get by directly saying, wow, I have a title in philosophy? Wow, my bro. What is the point in doing stuff like that, you know? And that is the sad thing about nowadays society, that we have so many pointless things. And I mean, I am focusing only on the direct ones, but trying to attack the whole entertainment business is incredibly also necessary if we want to make any particular change. What the fuck is the point of having content that directly distracts you from reality, that allows you to not even pay attention to the world in which you live? What is the point of that? The problems themselves don't even disappear, my man. You only ignore them, and you only get more physically destroyed by doing so. Because those problems are still feeding off you, and because those problems are still taking part in your unconscious mind and are becoming bigger and bigger every day. If you decided to still not pay any attention whatsoever to them, what is the point in stuff like that, you know? I don't know. I guess at the very least we can try to say something like, probably, let me try to do this. This is a Windows, so I guess over here another Windows. I guess, yeah, the only possible solution that I will find is to still not be so negative about anything. At the end of the day, the point is not to be negative and not to be harmful with your words, but rather to properly provide help. At the end of the day, it is a matter of perspectives and whatsoever, you know, and you can convey the same idea in different ways. Like, don't you notice how much you are destroying yourself by allowing your problems to eat of you and to take part of your daily routine instead of solving them? Don't you see how much better you could be if you decided to take care of your self, your person, instead of preoccupying your existence, your so incredibly limited existence, with problems of somebody who isn't even aware about your own existence? Don't you wish to see how much more you can do for your own sake and for your own happiness, instead of worrying about somebody who might as well never even direct their vision towards you? Their mind, their notion of your existence might never appear on their mind. Don't you want something like that? Don't you want to be happy, my man? Don't you want to have a cheerful life, to live in a world in which you have done what you wanted, instead of, after so many years, realizing that you have been spending it all away on things that never really mattered after all? That after so many errors, after so many problems, now you can only say, yes, this was a waste, and this was in incredibly harmful ways, not one that I enjoy, one that literally now, after it has been done, brings me no satisfaction whatsoever. Why won't you want to be happy like that? Why we predicate so much that we need to be happy, yet we fail so much in conveying how to properly get and to achieve that happiness and to keep striving for that unending desire for happiness that we might as well not even be correctly doing what is necessary to orient our societies towards anything, sadly. And I guess, in a sense, getting emotional is part of that. Because sadly, if you don't see emotions behind what somebody else is telling you, you now discredit what they are saying. You now believe that what they are trying to talk about is completely rubbish. Okay, man, I don't know. I don't know. I truly don't fucking know anymore. Almost nothing. That is all I can say. Yeah, I think I have been ranting too much. Yeah. I think I have been ranting for the last 10 minutes or so about this. So I might as well want to something like or up this. I guess I will do. Okay, let me finish this row of windows, and after that, we're probably going to close this stream whatsoever. One, two. I think kind of a problem is that I still don't get fucking perspectives and such. So trying to deal with them is kind of hard. Anyways, I hope it will make all sense when I add those outlines later. I don't know how many hours I am going to spend on this project alone. That is why I don't fucking do art whatsoever. Because I really realize how incapable I am of putting together artistical pieces fast enough. I mean, I don't think it is going to be that beautiful. To the degree to which you can say, wow, having spent 10 hours was worth it on this, was the best thing that I could have done. Maybe, I don't know, I think at this point it will probably take me like, how much? 20? Probably something like that, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. Let's hope that it does at the very least worth observing, and that I don't, at the very least, I keep constantly in my mind the concept of, wow, you might fail because you are too perfectionist. So yeah, at the very least, I am not touching that much things over anywhere. But yeah, I think with this, we might as well. I can try to adopt the black lines, but yeah, I also want to rest a little bit, and yeah, we still have to work a little bit more later on. So yeah, let me do this simply. Well, we have been working a little bit on this, and we might as well take a tiny break as we are going to keep working on this for the rest of the day and so on and so forth. So yeah, let me also save the project before Krita crashes. Auto saving, thank you Krita. But let me say myself, saving document, 60%. I didn't add that much stuff, Krita. You shouldn't crash, my man. Please don't crash, Krita. Krita, we are once again stuck at. Okay. okay, it's saved. Let me now close Krita then, so that I don't have to worry about it anymore. Well, anyways, very nice. Almost 2 hours working on this, working quote unquote, creating this passion project. So yeah, very fine. I guess now we are done, at least for the moment. So yeah, I will guess we might as well. We have the beautiful possibility of reading someone, so we might as well do that. But meanwhile, as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for the possibility of watching this, for the beautiful gift that is to observe this and to. I will hope to say something interesting. I will hope. I will wish it is interesting enough. And yeah, so far, as I was saying, thanks for everything. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for watching. Thanks for pondering session. No. Thank you. As I said, thank you for hearing. I I really simply do it because I like it. So thanks for enjoying it, you. And well, yes, I guess we are going to leave now. We're going to give a raid to, in this case, anything Arax or anything Arax. I don't know who he says his own name. I failed as a viewer. I'm so sorry. But yeah, anything Arax we will say. We're going to give him a raid. What was he playing? He's playing yeah, he's playing Sea of Thieves. I guess in a solo run or something like that. But yeah, as I was saying, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for looking, thanks for watching the VOD, thanks for every beautiful gift that is to presented to me daily. Please stay hopeful, stay nice, stay hydrated, stay rested also, take care of yourself. And now we're going to leave to anything Arax doing Sea of Thieves. And whenever it happens once again. We're going to get back here to do something else. But until then, thanks for all. And if it doesn't happen, at the very least we'll show you what we had here. Now, thanks for everything. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for all of the things that happen constantly. And now, yeah, Red, who, anything Arax doing Sea of Thieves. 1, 2, 3, Raid. Thanks so much. Raid.